Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mityorma Amritam Gamaya. From untruth lead us to truth. From darkness lead us to light. From death lead us to immortality. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Embodiments of love. This is how my spiritual mentor Sri Satya Sai Baba, the avatar of the Kali Yuga, used to greet each and every one of us. And because I firmly believe that we are, after all, embodiments of love, I have chosen this greeting for you. For a long time I have been struggling with myself whether or not I should reveal to the public a true life experience that I have gone through under the guidance and inspiration of my spiritual mentor, guide. And today I decided to actually open up and risk a shitstorm of disbelief and maybe rejection. At the same time, I feel that some of you, if not many, will be encouraged and inspired by what I have to share. Because it is an example, a true life example, how one can conduct himself, herself in a time of crisis, in a time of life-threatening, severe circumstances, and how divine interference and divine miracles are a reality, even and especially in our times of distress, in our times of imbalance and uncertainty. My story starts in the year 1997. After having finished prestigious jobs for Vivienne Westwood, Giorgio Armani, VW and BMW, to name a few clients, I decided with a boosted self-confidence to book a flight with Air Berlin to New York City, because I sincerely believe that I'm God's gift for New York City. And while sitting in the plane crossing the Atlantic Ocean, my inner voice told me, Wolfgang, you have two missions to complete. One was to work with one of the most renowned model agencies there, which is Wilhelmina Models, to be precise. And the other one was my film project. I had written a film treatment, not a full-blown script as of yet. But this treatment I felt needed to be exposed in New York City. And my inner voice was literally telling me, you need to give this to Whitney Houston. Now, these were bold goals to be achieved. And after 4 weeks of staying in New York, I came to the harsh realization that my reputation as a European model, having worked for the king of fashion, Mr. Giorgio Armani himself, meant nothing for my New Yorker friends. I had a crash landing and found myself being broke because I couldn't afford the hotel anymore. So I had two options. Either I would call my father and tell him, get me out of here, bring me back to Germany. And option number two was to fight the good game. And that meant the shelter in the Bronx for the homeless. And true to my last name, Kshatriya, the calling ingrained in that name, the case of kings and warriors, that name, by the way, was given to me by Sri Satya Sai Baba in the year 1995 in Hamburg, while I was meditating in front of a house altar of my dear friend Ingeborg von Oertzen. She passed away a few years ago, God bless her soul. But she was instructed by Sri Satya Sai Baba to baptize me with a bowl of water, and she dropped it over my head and told me in my face, your name is not Wolfgang Mammes, that's my family name. I was born into the family Mammes, Paul Mammes, my father, 1965. But as of 1995, my last name changed to Kshatriya, and it became official. It's in my passport, on my driver's license, and my bank card, etc. So this is a real official name, but it had an official calling attached to it, a divine calling to be a warrior for truth, for justice, for democratic principles, for human values, for freedom. And there I was in the shelter for 3 nights. I had my suitcase on my chest and my shoes on my suitcase, because I was told if I wouldn't secure my belongings the next morning, I wouldn't find neither my shoes nor my suitcase anymore. So this was a rather severe test of faith, test of self-confidence, and it made me realize that nothing and nobody could break my spirit. This experience in the shelter as a homeless was a blessing in disguise. It gave me the inner strength. It allowed my real courage to surface and to embrace it and to fight till the end. After on the fourth day, I took my one and only designer suit. By the way, I never looked like a homeless bump. I always kept my dignity. So I always was clean, had my 3-day beard trimmed. And with my South African designer suit, I walked down to Battery Park, the south tip of Manhattan. I sat on the bench, looking at the Statue of Liberty, trying to squeeze a smile out of my heart. She was trying. At least that's what I imagined. But I had a castor oil face, and I couldn't meditate anymore. I couldn't pray. I was numb, without perspective. And in my agony, I realized that next to me, an Indian gentleman took his seat to have his lunch. It was 12 noon, lunchtime for the brokers from the Wall Street. So the Indian broker Arjun stared at me and started talking to me. Hey, young man, what's wrong with you? Why you have such a castor oil face? I told him my story, and it touched him. So Arjun said, you know, Wolfgang, I can't let you go back to the shelter. You deserve better. You can stay at my place. To make a long story short, for 2.5 months, I was staying at Arjun's apartment in Brooklyn. And this is where I met Bill Tingling, who happened to be a security guard of the Madison Square Garden. And I befriended Bill Tingling, and I told him that I was a fashion model, but that I also had a film script, a treatment for a script in my suitcase, and that somehow I felt inspired to bring this to the attention of Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston at the time, 1997, was at the height of her career. A megastar. Bill Tingling found my story interesting. He wanted to read my script. Fast forward 6-7 months. Bill wants a copy of my treatment, and he sends it to Nippy. Nippy was Whitney Houston's management out of New York City. And Bill had some connections gained from the Madison Square Garden. So I wasn't very hopeful, but lo and behold, Bill Tingling calls me back after a few weeks, says, Wolfgang, A lawyer wants to talk to you. Thomas Weisenbeck. Thomas Weisenbeck was representing NIPI. So I was told. And indeed, a few days later, I received this phone call.